Here are two interior panels from the 79 Corvette with different types of interior damage that I want to show you how I go about repairing them. Now, starting with this is something probably easier to tackle. Minor cracks. I mean, some of these are kind of big, but minor cracks in the sense of it did not affect the rigidity or the structural aspect of this at all. Just cosmetics purely. Now, something like this broke in half. This is the top of the windshield frame interior panel. We have little cracks here on both sides. This is going to need more of an extensive repair. So I'm going to show you how I do both of these at the varying levels of this more beginner. This is definitely harder. Let's tackle this one first, show you my process. So first step, no matter the repair, is to clean it up. We're going to take some glass cleaner, really whatever type of cleaner you have that you want to use. I'm nearly out because I've been using this stuff like crazy. And then we'll take some red Scotch-Brite. This roughs it up, and this helps get out that top layer of grit. Now, you don't want to go too hard or heavy with this because the plastic has a pattern to it. It has some texture. You don't want to sand that texture away. And all it takes is just a little bit. So you saw me just scrub it up. We'll take my rag, wipe it off. Much cleaner. You can clearly notice the difference. So we're going to go the whole panel just doing this, and then we need to pay attention to the damage areas. Okay, they are cleaned, ready for the next part, which is sanding to make a appropriate smooth surface so we can do some filling. But just to check out this difference, these are not the same colors. They're both supposed to be oyster. I imagine one of these is not from the original car. You know, this is more the tan one, this is more the gray oyster. Different types of oyster shades, but it is what it is. We're going to dye it anyway, so it won't matter. So we're going to take some sandpaper, I believe this is 220, yep. And we're just going to feather in these cracks and try to make them smooth. So we'll start with this one because this one's smaller, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, got this one all sanded, ready. So this material is, I think it's just foam with this leather cover over it. So it's sanding pretty easy. It's making dents and divots. It's not very flat at all. But the idea of what I'm doing here is sanding this down so where this is definitely now a valley. It's a divot, it's lower than the rest of it, so now when I put some filler in here, I can level it out and you'll never notice. Same, I've been working on this one. Now this is a pretty large gap. When you get a crack like this on some sort of foam or leather, what tends to happen is it pushes up on one side, but it's also pushing up on the other side as well. So you're going to end up with a high spot on the edges here. So what I need to do is sand the edges down, sand this whole section down, so where it's a low spot, and then we can fill it in. So it just takes some extra sanding, and we'll just be here for a little bit doing this, but eventually we'll get it. We'll be able to feel no more hill. It'll be like a valley where it dips down. Take a perfect example here. I'm on the flat side of the block. When I'm sanding this, you notice how the only spot that's actually showing signs of sanding is the top. That's where the top of the hill is on both of these. So we're just going to keep going until we start seeing sand marks on both sides evenly. And that's when you know for sure that you knocked the hill down. Otherwise, you can just run your finger over it and feel it. Alright, so now we are at the point of filling, taking some JB Weld, and I'm just filling it into the cracks and then smoothing it out. The important thing is to get it in the crack, and you don't want really air bubbles in it either, so get it in the crack and then you can focus about smoothing it out and trying to get it level. So that's pretty good right there. Still need to fill in this low spot. Gonna need some more. can see I still have a little dip, so I need to put a little bit more JB Weld on there. But that's basically the process. We'll just keep doing that. Now the other thing worth mentioning is if your panel is pretty flexible, it might have lost its shape with it being cracked. So you don't want to repair it and then stiffen it up and now it's at a shape that it's not supposed to be at. So what I did before this is I went in the interior and I made sure that this still fit just like it's supposed to. I checked how it bends when it would be tightened up, and there's some flexibility for sure. So I think how I have it laid out is as good as it gets, but we'll see. We'll make this repair, and then before we go any further, we'll bolt it into the car, make sure it doesn't crack the filler work we just did. So the JB Weld has dried overnight. It is cured now, and this is how it looks. We have all these repair areas, and I think this is going to be good. So now we just sand and smooth it out. We want to get rid of any lines. You can see a line that might need another round of JB Weld once we smooth it out. We'll just mess with it. But very important, I test fitted this back into where it came out of to make sure that we did not curve it or affect how it bolts in or anything. We are good. This particular panel has the bending happens kind of in this area over here. It's not putting any stress on these, so we are good. Now let's just sand. Again, I'm going to use my 220, just make it smooth just like we did before. Alright, prepping this panel for paint, we're going to hit it with the plastic adhesion promoter. Again, probably not necessary, but let's play it safe. We're doing 2 light coats. Just really light. I got a little bit of a breeze right now, so this might make painting actually a little bit interesting. Try to get in there. If you can see all the little black dots, I painted this one black already. I did not do a good job masking this all off, so I got overspray, but it's okay. We roughed it up again, and then when we paint it, it will all go away. We're going to use this leather, vinyl, plastic dye. This is a dye, not a paint. It's supposed to be better for plastic, leather stuff like this. So with this, just spray really light. You don't want to go too heavy, otherwise you'll notice it. Now I'm going to hit the repair areas first, and mostly on this first coat. So we'll hit those areas, and then we'll do light everywhere else, and then we'll go at it. So I just want to cover the repair areas very first. Now we'll go over the rest of it once that cures in about 10 minutes. Okay, we are 3 coats in, and I'm happy with the color change now. You can't really see the blends anymore, but I'll still do one more coat just to make sure we're all covered. And then I need to figure out how to get the bottom areas here, because I got the bottom areas on the edges, but I gotta get those bottom edges since it is a different shade of oyster color. But you could see the repair areas are just flat, and there's just no getting around that. You see texture, and then you just see flat for the repair area. Not much I can really do about that, but from afar, you know, like 5 feet away, you can hardly tell at all. Okay, moving on to repair the cracked panel. Now I taped the backside with duct tape, and I fit it back in just to make sure we're in a good position. Everything's still lined up. I have it propped up on what I could find in the garage so it's level, and it's ready to be filled. You see there's quite a large gap, but first we're going to try to build that strength back right here. So, taking some fiberglass resin, and it came with this liquid hardener. The ratio said 14 drops to 1 ounce, so I got 1 ounce in there now. We'll dip this in 14 times and then we'll mix it. Alright, let's see if I can do this one-handed. So we got this mixed up. I'm just going to apply some of the resin. Okay, now we'll take some of our fiberglass and we're just gonna place it right on, and then I just put some more on it and I roll it out. And that's the process. So we'll probably do 2 coats of this, another round of fiberglass, and then that should hopefully build enough strength to keep it solid. Alright, the fiberglass has been laid down. Gonna let it dry. I think it takes about 1 to 2 hours to dry before it's sandable, but we'll let it sit for a while. Probably get back to it maybe tomorrow or something. But I just put a little bit of resin on the cracks on the sides for both of these. Mainly I just want to see if it does anything. I don't know. I'm not really expecting much. I'm sure I'm going to have to fill those cracks on the front side with JB Weld anyways. But we'll see how this does. Once it's fully dry, we can see how sturdy it is. Then we'll flip it over and we'll work on filling the gaps on the front side and making it look better. Okay, I've let this piece sit in here for a couple days now. I don't really need to let it sit for a couple days, but the important thing is I want to make sure it's still bolted in and everything with the fiberglass work that I did, because you can make it not flat or round, whatever it is. In this case it's a little bit of a slope, but we had to make sure that we didn't mess with the alignment of anything. But we're all good here. Let's unbolt it. Let's work on patching up the side that you can actually see. Alright, here's the piece. As you see, I'm able to hold it up without it cracking or anything. So I put a decent amount of fiberglass in it, especially where the crack is, and a pretty good amount of resin too. I even put the resin over here on these cracks. They seem to be holding up just okay. Now let's flip it over, let's take the tape off, and let's work on the side that you actually see. And here it is, and surprisingly it came out a lot better than I thought. This is the biggest crack, and the resin filled it in pretty good. It's under the crack, it's not above. So sanding, we just got to sand down the trim here, the plastic part. And then we have some of the tape residue here, but this will all get knocked off when we sand it. So alright, let's prep this for the JB Weld. Alright, gave it a nice scuff with the 220. We have it nice and even now. And the only ledge is, or ridge would be where the fiberglass filled in on the backside, the resin and all that. So we are good, ready to lay on top layer of JB Weld here, and on these 2 corners as well. JB Weld's been applied on the corners and the most important center. So looking good so far. Gonna let this cure, come at it in a new day, sand it down, see how it looks. And this panel is all sanded, ready for paint. Same thing we did to the other panel, where we just make it smooth. And seem to have done a pretty decent job. So let's clean this off. Once it's dry, we can spray it. Alright, let's spray this thing. So once again, using the dye, we'll spray this on, light coats, and make sure to hit our repair areas. One more look at them before we paint them up. So I'm just trying to get the repair areas first. And that should be good. That hits the repair areas, gets a nice coat on them first, and then we'll come back later on with another coat over the whole thing. 2 coats in, and we still need more coverage over the repair area, so I'm going to focus this 3rd coat on those areas. It has dried and it looks pretty good. Now obviously we did not match the texture on the repair areas, so that's the one thing that could be improved upon, but other than that, it's solid, it's fiberglassed, it's gonna last. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.